Go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's say it like you mean it now.
Hey, yes sir. We're going to start off with John chapter 15. Or Yehukanan chapter 15. You're going to start at the top.
I got to call the verse specifically so you know.
Yehukanan chapter 15 verse 1. It says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that bear forth not fruit, he taketh away. And every branch that bear forth fruit, he purgeth, that it may be brought forth more fruit. See right there where it's saying, we know that if the Mashiach is the true vine, and we are the branches, we shall bring fruit of everything that the Father or the Mashiach bring fruit. And every branch in me that bear fruit, he take away. Every branch that bear fruit, he purgeth, that it might bring forth more fruit. So, let's go into verse 3. It said, now you are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you, and abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except to abide in the vine, no more can ye except ye abide in me. Verse 5, I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abide in me, and I in him, the same forth bring forth fruit. For without me, you can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered, and men gather him, and cast him into the fire, and they are burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. So, it's two type of things going on. The Father say, if you, the Mashiach say, if you abide in him, you shall bring forth more fruit, because he is the vine. If you abide not in him, you is cast forth as a branch and withered, and they shall cast you away, and you shall be burned. You know what I'm saying? So, what bring to mind to me when I read that scripture is basically people like to ask and say, okay, it's still stuff happen good to people that's doing wicked. And we sit back and we think, okay, why can someone who is a wicked in his heart still be able to bring forth, you know what I'm saying, earthly fruit? So we looking at this man, okay, if we live in a righteous way, and they not living a righteous way, and they still producing, some people will fall off their faith because of stuff like that. And when you look at that, you sit back and you think, okay, why should I continue to live in a righteous manner if a man who is living wicked can still prosper in this world and still do forth in this world? Why can a man who's not living in this way not be able to bring forth fruit? You know what I'm saying? Because we both are trees. Everyone is a seed. Just because whatever in your life, what you're doing, you still a seed. So within that seed, you're going to be able to bring forth fruit, or you're going to be able to bring forth wickedness. Now we know that the fruit is the fruit of the land. That's what Caleb and all them boys had to do back when they hit that land. They had to bring forth fruit to show forth what the land is, to show forth that the land is true. So when we know that what the fruit is the word. So if the word not abiding in you, you're not going to produce more fruit. You're not going to produce more people who going to be able to produce the word as you. Because a tree bear forth its fruit by its works. Now the precept we wanted to go to that was Ezekiel chapter 15. Ezekiel chapter 15, we're going to start at verse 1.
Say 15 and 1?
Yeah. It saying, the word of Yahuwah came to me saying, Son of man, what is the vine tree more than any tree? Or than a branch which is among the trees of the forest? Shall wood be taken thereof to do any work? Or will men take a pen of it to hang any vessel their own? Now I'm going to start at verse 2 again. Son of man, what is the vine tree more than any tree, or than a branch which is among the trees of the forest. So we just left Yochanan chapter 15 where the Mashiach say he is that vine. He is that tree. So it say, what is the branch among the trees of the forest? So he say that we are the branches. So if the Mashiach is the vine and we are the branches, we shall be attached to the Mashiach. And that's what we're going to be able to bring forth. So it say, shall wood be taken thereof to do any work? Verse 3. Or would men take a pen of it to hang any vessel thereon? So the question I got, where at verse 3 it say, shall men take a pen of it to hang any vessel thereon? What that make you think about?
I know what it's about. I'm let you do it.
What that make you think
They
about?
can't tell you.
Oh, they can't tell you. Okay, Corey, the men on here, verse 3, what that make you think about? When you say, shall wood be taken up to do any work, or will men take a pen of it and hang any vessel thereon? Hello? Anybody hear me? Y'all at verse 3? Exactly. So, okay, I see what you're saying. So you're saying that if something Corbett saying if something so heavy, when you hang it on the pen, that it might break because the pen is a small vessel. That's a different way to exactly. So I see the way you looking at it, but the way I'm looking at this scripture where it's saying when men shall take a pen and hang it in the vessel on, we gotta look on when was a pen taken to hang a vessel. So when you looking at that pen and you looking at what vessel was hung up, you got to look back and see, okay, who was that talking about? Or who was that pen that was going to hang that vessel up? And then it say, verse 2, son of man, what is the vine? We just read you Yochanan chapter 15 where it say the Mashiach is that vine. So if he say verse 2, which is among the trees, it say, son of man, what is the vine tree more than any tree, or than a branch which is among the trees of the forest? So we say that he is the vine, he is that true vine, who is the branch. You know what I'm saying? We are the branches that are brought forth through that vine. So a vine may bring forth good fruit, or a vine may bring forth bad fruit. Con? You know what I'm saying? So let's go to verse 5. It say, behold, when it was whole, it was meat for no work. How much less shall it be meat yet for any work, when the fire hath devoured it, and it has burned? It say, therefore, there says Yahuwah Elohim, as a vine tree among the trees of the forest, which I have given to the fire for fuel, so will I give unto the inhabitants of Jerusalem. So let's go back to Yochanan chapter 15. Or John chapter 15, Yochanan. It's start at verse 5. It say, I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abide in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered, and men gather him and cast him to the fire, and they are burned. So that equate back to with the Mashiach. If he is that true vine, and we the branches, we got to be a part of the Mashiach. We got to stay a part of him. If we don't stay a part of him, then we shall be cast forth. You know what I'm saying? But back to what I was saying with that branch, and him being the vine, when he planted these seeds, if a seed is watered, you thinking the seed is going to grow. Whatever seed that he plant is going to grow forth. But the thing about that seed, is the seed going to produce good fruit, or is the seed going to produce bad fruit? Because a plant going to grow. That's when we go And we look at Matthew chapter 5. Or Matthew chapter 5. Yeah, so what basically saying, when whatever that plant gonna be, that's how you gonna grow. Let's go to verse 13 of Matthew chapter 5. It said, "Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost its savor, wherever shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out, and to be trodden under the foot of men. You are the light of the world. A city that's set on the hill cannot be hid." So we basically saying, if we don't continue to be watered, we shall not grow. And that's that true vine. Hello? Yeah, come. So I was just seeing where the next verse go to. Y'all want to hit it on the book of Bereshit. Bereshit, which is Genesis. So we wanted to go to Bereshit chapter 43. Bereshit chapter 43. So we're gonna start at we're gonna start at verse 1. So we have Bereshit, which is Genesis chapter 43, verse 1. It's saying, "The famine was sore in the land, and it came to pass when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought up out of Egypt, their father said unto him, Go again, buy us a little food. And Yehuda spake to them, saying, The man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, You shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. If thou shalt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food." So at the top of the chapter, when it say it was a famine in the land, we know that a famine is resulting to the word. The reason how we know that the famine is resulting to the word, because what's being brought forth in the famine is no food. And what you need to survive is the food. So if the Mashiach is our bread, is our meat, and it's a famine, we shall always need him and want him. And if the famine was sore in the land, like verse 1 saying the famine was sore in the land. When the famine was sore in the land, that means there's no word being brought forth. That means in verse 2 it's saying it came to pass when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought up out of Mizraim, their father said to them, Go again, buy us a little food. So when you sit back and look at verse 2, what you think that mean when it say buy us a little food? If it's a famine in the land and we know that we need food to survive, what that mean to buy us little food? Or what come to your mind when you think of that in verse 2? Corey or anybody?
Purchase us with his blood.
Okay, like the white say, that's to purchase us with his blood. When he say go buy us a little food, we know that the Mashiach was bought with a price, just like our body bought with a price. So when Yehuda or Judas went to go sell him for selling him out to the Pharisees, we know that That was his blood being shed. We purchased him for some blood. So when the Father said, go us and buy us a little food, he referring to us, go us and buy the food, which is the Mashiach, which is the word, to end the famine of the land. So it's saying, Yahudah spoken to him, saying, the man that solemnly protested him, saying, you shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. If thou would send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. So that we know that as we as brothers and us as Israel, that brother they were speaking of was the Mashiach. And they say, you gotta send your brother with us and we'll go down and buy thee food. That's the way that we got food, was through our brother. Our brother fed us when there was a famine in the land. So we got to lean on each other as brothers to continue to feed us through the famine, which is and ultimately the Mashiach. And it say verse 5, it say, but thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said to us, you shall not see his face, except your brother be with you. And Yasharah said, wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell a man whether you had yet a brother. So when we got sent, we were sent with the Mashiach. And that's how we received our blessing, which was the food, because he was our brother in that famine of the land. All that relate back in the beginning where we were talking about that vine and those branches being brought forth. If it's a famine in the land, then that means no food gonna be brought forth. But since the Mashiach is that vine, we as branches have to grab onto him and bring forth more fruit. The famine in the land was resulting to no word being brought forth. We know that he was a seed, and the seed had to abide in the land for 3 days and 3 nights to even grow forth and sprout forth more fruit. As long as we continue to grab onto that vine, we shall become the true branches of the Mashiach, which is the true Yahudim, surviving through any type of famine. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people, where I know within myself, I have always heard people talking about a famine in the land, and that famine was always resulting to the word. And people are scared not the word being brought out. The word is going to be brought out regardless. We have to grab onto the word and look towards the word, which is the Mashiach that's brought forth through any type of famine. Anytime there's a famine in the land where it seems like nothing is producing fruit, the only thing that's going to produce fruit is the faith in the Mashiach, because he is that word that brings forth the famine in any land. That's how when we abide in that true vine, we shall become true branches. Like as those who profess the Mashiach or say, okay, I believe in the Mashiach, but if you're not bringing forth fruit that is of the Mashiach, you're not a true one abiding to that vine. You're not becoming a true branch. That's why we read back in Yazakal or Ezekiel chapter 15, all the branches shall be cast forth and burnt with fire. According to Yehudah 9:15, the same thing. Seed's going to be planted and seed going to be brought forth, but if that vine is the Mashiach and we grab hold of him, we going to produce good fruit, and we're not going to be cast into the fire. That's the whole point of living and being watered by his word, which is the Mashiach, coming down forth, which is the Ruach HaKodesh. Now, next thing you want to go to was Bereshit or Genesis. We're going to go to verse 12, chapter 1. We're going to Bereshit, chapter 12, verse 1. Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. It says, and the earth brought forth grass, and the earth yielded seed after his kind. And the tree yielded fruit whose seed was in itself, and after his kind. And Elohim saw it was good. And the evening and the morning was the third day.
So 12 and 1 or 1 and 12?
1 and 12. Bereshit chapter 1, verse 12. My bad. For if y'all thought it was 12 and 1. It was 1 and 12. Teacher, I'm going to tell you no. We at verse 11. Let's go back since he brought it back. Let's go back to verse 10. So we at Bereshit chapter 1, we at verse 10. And it's saying the Elohim called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas, and Elohim saw that it was good. And the Elohim said, let the earth bring forth grass, and the herb yield the seed, and the fruit tree yield the fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so. And so when you look at verse 10, and it say, and the Elohim called the dry land earth, and the gathering together the water he called seas, and saw that it was good. You see that it's a difference between the earth, and you see this is a difference between the water. Now, what was man brought forth out of? Man was brought forth out of earth. So, if he made a difference between the earth, he made a difference between the water, what you think that water represents?
That's spirit.
That's the Ruach HaKodesh. So, if he made a difference between the earth, he made a difference between the water, that means the earth or the flesh can't dwell with the what? With the spirit. The spirit has to dwell with the Ruach. That's why your flesh must be killed in order for you to dwell with the Ruach HaKodesh. In verse 11 it said, and Elohim said, let the earth bring forth grass, and the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind. So after that earth or that flesh dies and receives the water, what make a plant grow? Or what makes seed grow? Water. So if a seed is growing forth out of the earth, it has to receive water to grow. So if we flesh coming up out of the earth, we have to receive water, which is Ruach HaKodesh, in order for us to what? To continually grow. And then it say, in the herb yielding seed, who was that seed? Who was that promised seed? We as Yasharal or Jacob, we was that promised seed through who? Through Isaac. Because Abraham had told what? Isaac, it shall be a promised seed. If we come from Yishkat, Isaac, and we go down to Yasharal, which is Jacob, then that seed going to be continue to grow on. The Mashiach came out of that same seed through the blood of who? David. You know what I'm saying? So it say, verse 11, and the Elohim said, let the earth bring forth grass, and the herb yield the seed. That's the Mashiach. And the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, who seeds in itself upon the earth, and it was so. So as long as us as the earth or flesh coming forth out of the earth through Adam, we receive water, which is the Ruach that was given through the Mashiach, we shall be able to grow and produce what? Good fruit, a good seed after his kind. Now we have verse 12. It says, the earth brought forth grass, and the herb yielded seed after his kind, and the tree yielded fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And the Elohim saw that it was good. You know what I'm saying? Now you go back to Mattiyahu, we said, the Mashiach say, there's nothing good except the Father. So we know that if anything is good except the Father, and he producing seed that's bringing forth good fruit, any man that is the son of the Father is of the Father. That's why they look back and look at the Mashiach. They say, okay, they mad because he said he was born of the Father. And they said he made himself equal with Elohim. If the Mashiach made himself equal with Elohim, that means what? He was good as well. He thought it not robbery to do that, because Adam was made equal with Elohim. Adam came forth out of earth, but he was brought forth as Elohim. So when you see that, we know that the only thing that's going to make the flesh grow is the water, which has come from the Ruach HaKodesh. Okay? So that's another part of why we hit Yazakal chapter 15 about abiding that true vine, which is of the Mashiach, so that we'll be able to produce forth good fruit. Now we want to head over to Dabarim chapter 16.
What's that?
Dabarim, which is Deuteronomy chapter 16. So Dabarim chapter 16, we're going to start at verse 3. Which Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 3. Thou shalt eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction. For thou camest forth out of the land of Mizraim in haste, that thou mayest remember the day when thou came forth out of the land of Mizraim all the days of thy life. This is referring to the children of Yasharal of Israel being locked into Egypt, or Mitzrayim, which is bondage. So when you shall eat no unleavened bread, in 7 days y'all shall eat unleavened bread with it, the bread of affliction. For that's what y'all came forth out of Mitzrayim in haste. During this time period when Yasharal was leaving up out of Egypt, they didn't have time to prepare bread with fluff because they was in bondage, they was in sin. So when Pharaoh finally let them go from all the things that he was doing to them, they had to fillet it out with haste. And with haste, that's the bread that they made quick, which is unleavened. They didn't have time to put no yeast or no leaven inside of this bread because it was time to hurry up and go and just hit the wilderness because we finally free. So that's why it's unleavened bread. They didn't put no, yeast or leaven within it. That also has a spiritual representation of, okay, we have to remove the leaven without of us. We have to remove the leaven without of our flesh so that we may be loosed up out of bondage. That's why when the Passover or the Feast of Unleavened Bread come around, we remove up all the unleavened up out of our house because it represents us of within our flesh to continue to remove the leaven out of our flesh so we'll be prepared to eat that final dinner with the Mashiach, which is the lamb, which is the blood, or which is the vine as well, which is going over. So when we continue at verse 3, it says, "That's how eat no unleavened bread with it. 7 days that's how eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction. For thou camest forth out of the land of Mitzrayim in haste, that thou mayest remember the day when thou came forth out of the land of Mitzrayim all the days of thy life. And there shall be no unleavened bread seen with thee in all thy coasts 7 days. Neither shall there anything of the flesh which thou sacrifice in the first day at evening remaining all night until the morning." So within those 7 days, there shall be no unleavened bread with us. What was created in 7 days? Everything. Everything was created in 7 days. So until the beginning and until the end, what shall we not have within us until those 7 days? In 11, that represents back, we shall always keep the word within us or within our heart through all these 7 days to that time of rest. If we don't keep into that time of rest, we're not going to be able to enter into that what? That Shabbat rest. Because that's the reason why we keep it for 7 days. We're not sitting here saying, okay, we finna remove all this leaven out of our house for 7 days and then, okay, on the Shabbat, we're going to keep that Shabbat. No, that's a representation of this earth was created in 7 days. What we live in is created in 7 days. If we observe that rest and we observe removing that leaven out of our house for 7 days, that's completion. That means, okay, you endured from the beginning and you're going to endure to the end. You know what I'm saying? So a continual process of removing leaven out of your house, that's a continual thing. We have to sit back and listen our whole life or throughout those whole 7 days. We're going to continue to change. We're going to continually grow. We're going to continually remove leaven up out of our house all those 7 days. Because that's the bread of affliction. You must be afflicted through your whole time period until you enter into that rest. That's how the Mashiach, we're going to see how the Mashiach is that Shabbat rest. So go to Matthew chapter 27. Oh, that's Matthew chapter 27. So we're going to start at the top. It's verse 1. Matthew 27, verse 1. When the morning was come, all the chief priests and elders of the people took counsel unto Yahushua to put him to death. And when they had bound him, they led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate the governor. Then Yehuda, which had betrayed him, when he saw that he was condemned, repented himself and brought again the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. That's when I read you earlier when I was saying that he was brought, or what was bought or spent for us to receive the favor that we have now to come back into this covenant of the Mashiach. So, verse 4, it says, saying, I have sinned in that I have betrayed the innocent blood And they said, what is that to us? See thou to that. And he cast down the piece of silver in the temple and departed and went and hanged himself. And the chief priest took the silver pieces and said, it is not lawful for to put them in the treasury, because it was the price of blood. And they took counsel and brought with them the potter's field to bear strangers therein. Whereof that field is called the field of blood unto this day. So we looking at the Mashiach had to shed his blood, and him being that true vine, that blood he had to shed had to be within the field. So what if anybody know, according to, if we look back at Jacob and Esau was the man of the field, that means Esau was a man of the what? He was a man of the earth, or he was a man of the world. So the son that was born first, Esau, the birthright we had to get, was a man of the field, a man of the world. So when they say that field was called the field of blood, whose blood was shed to redeem that birthright of their brother? You know what I'm saying? That's the Mashiach. So it say, verse 9 say, then was fulfilled which was spoken to Jeremiah, a young Yahoo the prophet, saying, and they took the 30 pieces of silver and the price of him that was valued, whom they the children did value, and gave them for the potter's field as Yahuwah appointed me. So who was looked at and who was valued, or who do we hold dear to our heart, or we look strong to? You know what I'm saying? That's the Mashiach. We value him. You know what I'm saying? So with the children of Israel, we value him so much. They gave, in verse 10, they gave him for the potter's field as Yahuwah appointed me. So we was given the field because we value him. You know what I'm saying? Him being a vine, bringing forth good fruit. That's what we have to value to produce good fruit. You know what I'm saying? So that's basically just about what, you know, I done had so far. So if anybody else want to,
Come on. I'll go ahead. Come behind you. Come on, we get right there. Hey, y'all all right? How y'all feel about what Troy brought y'all? How y'all feel about that? You did all right. Now check this out, right? I'm going to just hit a couple places behind you. On a couple things, all right? I ain't going to take that long. I ain't going to try to go that long. Y'all with me? Y'all hear me? I want you to go to Ezekiel chapter 15 again. I want you to look at about verse 3. I thought he was going to go a little longer. I didn't think I was going to have enough time to come behind him. I thought he'd go to at least 9 o'clock. I was going to stop then. Y'all give me a second to go there. He got this old man Bible. That's your mama Bible.
my daddy.
Yeah, I know it. That's my old man Bible.
That kind right there, boy.
Yeah, you see one of these one here with the slave ship on the front?
You see I scratched out the cross.
Yeah. You see that there? When you see a book like this here, that's a slave ship on the front, they say. That's an old man Bible. I want you to look at about chapter 15, right? I want you to look at verse 3, right? It says, shall wood be taken thereof to do any work, or will a man take a pen of it to hang any vessel thereon? I want you to go to 2 Timothy chapter 2 and about verse 19, because he said, will anybody take any wood to do any work? To do any work. 2 Timothy chapter 2 and about verse 19. We're going to swing it about 2 different ways. Says, nevertheless, the foundation of Elohim stands sure, having this seal. Mashiach knowing them that are his. And let everyone that name the name of Mashiach depart from iniquity. So I want you to hold this and go to Isaiah 51. I mean Psalms or Talahim 51. Some of y'all familiar with this saying here, man. I know for me, you know, y'all first had a situation. You know what I'm saying? Did something you shouldn't have done. And guess what y'all decided to do? Have mercy. Because every last one of us, no matter how seem it may be small, we don't want to have nothing that we can sit back and allow his enemy to blaspheme, to bring shame on him or shame on ourselves. Y'all understand what I'm telling you? I want y'all to look at Talahim or Psalm 51. This right here in verse 1. See, this is dealing with David. I'm going to come back and I'm going to work this Ezekiel 15 in, but this is what David said after Nathan the prophet had came unto him after he had slept with Bathsheba. He said, have mercy upon me, O Elohim, according to thy loving kindness, according to the multitude of thy tender mercies, blot out my transgression. Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity and cleanse me from my sin. Now, we already seen from what Troy already touched on in the 15th chapter of Euchanon of John. He said, you're clean from the word that I've spoken unto you. Why you sit back and look at that? Because in that same chapter, it talk about how greater love have no man than this, that a man lay his life down for his friends. Because this man came to blot out through his tender mercies all our transgressions, and to wash us through his word and with his blood from our sin. You know, the Apostle Paul tells us about that, how the blood of Hamashiach has washed us from our iniquities. So therefore, when we name this man's name, we need to make sure that we walk in that fashion. Because we know, we just looked at this the other day. What was the testimony that Yahuwah gave of David? Who know what the testimony that Yahuwah gave of David? Y'all don't know what he said about David? Huh? Yeah, he did say that, but I'm talking about specifically about David. When he was getting ready to come anoint David king, he had Samuel, he told Samuel something about David. What did he tell him? He said that David was a man after his own heart. That means David had David had a mind just like y'all had. He said David had a mind just like y'all had. You know what I'm saying? But D, you done missed him now, D. You gonna have to catch him on tape. You hear me, D? I said, you done missed him now. You gonna have to catch him when we upload it. But he did his thing, though. Y'all think Troy did all right, didn't he? Yeah, he did all right. Y'all will on the Shabbat. I'm gonna see what some of y'all got. He might go again on the Shabbat or Shabbat night. We gonna see what he got. But when we look at this Telehim 51, right? When we talk about with David, right? You know, David got caught doing that. You know, and this goes back, which is further down in this chapter, in the 17th verse, how the sacrifices of Elohim are a broken spirit and a broken and contrite heart, and Elohim will not despise that. Now, why would that be important for us? It'd be important for us because when we see a Mashiach getting ready to die, his heart was broken. Was his heart not broken? You know what I'm saying? I sit back and tell you, I know the last couple of days mine was. That's why I thank y'all that he had mercy on me. He ain't have to do it. You know what I'm talking about? We turn around and look at that right there, man, in that 67, 66 chapter Isaiah, and that 57 chapter Isaiah, that's who he said to dwell with him. That's hymns of a humble and a contrite spirit. Now I want you to sit back again and let's look at about verse 4. Because this is what we have to sit back and look at when we do certain things. It says, against thee and thee only have I sinned, and done this evil in thy sight, that thou might be justified when thou speak, and be clear when thou judge. Come over here, I think it's Jeremiah chapter 7, while I'm holding this 2 Timothy chapter 2. I think it's Jeremiah chapter 7. I don't know, looking at this Bible. I have to look at it. I'll find this out. What it is, I ain't got but 10 more minutes. At 9 o'clock comes over with. Let me see. It's Jeremiah chapter 10 and about verse 23. We still held at Ezekiel 15 and 2 Timothy chapter 2. He said, behold, I'm sorry, that's verse 22. I wanted 23, my apologies. He said, O Yahuwah, I know that the way of man is not in himself. It is not in man that walk to direct his steps. You know what I'm saying? That's what we end up messing up at sometimes, is we allow our flesh. He said, it's not in a man. It's not the way of man. He said, I know that the way of man is not in himself. You know, the way that we should go is not in us. The way that we should go is the word, and that should dwell in us. Was what she was talking about abiding in the vine and bringing forth fruit, to know the way that we ought to go. You understand what I'm saying? He said, O Yahuwah, correct me, but with judgment, not in thy anger, lest thou bring me to nothing. See, we turn around and we see that with a Mashiach. That he said, you know, those who he loved, he chastised, and he corrected them with judgment. Because see, I'm going to show y'all something in his word, right? In Exodus 34. This here is no different for any man. Exodus 34 and about verse 7. That's why we have to sit back and look at it. You know, we done dealt with this before. He said, if he should mark iniquity, who shall stand? Who remembers what we looked at when we looked at if he should mark iniquity, who should stand? what we looked at in that instance was in that Eucharist chapter 8 when that woman committed adultery and those people came at that woman. And he said, well, he that is without sin cast the first stone. And then all them people departed. He said he doesn't mark iniquity that we might know there's forgiveness with him, that he might be feared. See, you turn around and you look at certain situations, you'll sit back and you'll realize that you would have the fear to respect the man if he done corrected you in judgment and not in his anger. Because if he corrects you in his anger, he going to bring you to absolutely nothing. We've seen instances in the word where he's corrected people with his anger. You know what I'm saying? When we look at him correcting you with judgment, that means he's going to correct you and chastise you with his word. That's why Telahim 94:10 or 94:12 states, Baruch is the man whom thou chasten out of thy Torah. You know what I'm saying? That means you're a blessed individual when he whoop your behind with his word. You know what I'm saying? When you turn around, you look at David, see, he was a blessed individual because Yah came back around. He could have killed him. He'd have been justified in killing him. You know what I'm saying? He could have been justified in killing me. He could have been justified in killing any of us in any situation that he did, that we done, whether past, present, or future. You know what I'm talking about? Yah forbid that it be future. You know what I'm talking about? But that he could take us out, but instead he corrects us with judgment. He corrects you with the word. Let's look at Exodus 34 about verse 7. He said, keeping mercy for thousands and forgiving iniquity and transgressing and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty. Visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children unto the third and fourth generation. We have reason I mentioned this because Dwight done mentioned it to a couple. When we look at David, right? What office of administration did David hold?
King.
Besides king. Besides the king. What else was David? He was a prophet. So now we tell you, right? So we know every time David spoke a prophecy, was it right? So when he did that with Bathsheba and killed Uriah the Hittite, was the prophecy that he spoke wrong, or was the action that he did wrong?
Action that he did wrong.
And then after he got corrected for that, did David stop prophesying?
Not at all.
You know what I'm saying? But that's only because why? Because y'all allowed him to. Because see, he also, come on back to Psalm 51. I want y'all to sit back and look at what he prayed and what he asked y'all to do. See, people wonder, right? You know, David is the only person you read in this book who the Ruach HaKodesh fell on and it didn't come off. And people wonder why it didn't come off. And we're going to drop down about verse 10 and you're going to see why it didn't come off. He said, create in me a clean heart, O Elohim, and renew a right Ruach within me. Cast me not away from thy presence, and take not thy Ruach HaKodesh from me. He said, restore unto me the joy of thy salvation, and uphold me with thy free Ruach. See, that's another instance. You see how he said free Ruach? See, that's another instance where we go back and look at when the Mashiach say, freely you have been, freely you have got, freely you have received, and freely give. You know what I'm talking about? See, the Most High give you his spirit for free. In actuality, it's not for free. Because it is you got to give yourself up to get it. You know what I'm talking about? But in actuality, you ain't got to pay for it. That's why he say buy the truth and sell it not. But you see what he asked him, don't cast your spirit away from me. Because we know the spirit came on him when he anointed him with that oil, right? You don't read nowhere in the word where it come off of David door. You know what I'm saying? Because he asked him not to come off of him. Even when he had done committed sin, the same way the spirit came on the Mashiach and it didn't depart from him when he became sin. You know what I'm talking about? Because he going to ask the same thing. Uphold me with thy free salvation. Uphold me with thy free Ruach. Do not cast away thy transgression, thy Ruach HaKodesh from me, and make renew a right Ruach in me, because he was made a new creature upon his resurrection. You follow me? Come on back over here to this Ezekiel chapter 15. Or 2 Timothy chapter 2. I won't hit the other thing. I just hit the one thing I seen in Ezekiel, and I'll stop right there. Because he said, "As a vessel of wood meet for any work." We can actually look at this two ways. 2 Timothy 2 and 20 was where we at. He said, "But in a great house there are not only vessels of gold and of silver, but also of wood and of earth, and some to honor and some to dishonor. And if a man therefore purge himself from these, he shall be a vessel unto honor, sanctified and meet for the master's use, and prepared to every good work." So we turn around and look at it, we can see that a vessel of wood is not meet for any work, can we? It's not good for anything. We also see that a vessel of wood was for a good work, because we see we seen Elijah use a piece of wood for a work. We seen Abraham use a piece of wood for a work to lay Isaac on, which in turn we see a Mashiach being laid on the tree. So we see the wood being for good work. Come on back to Ezekiel 15. Okay, he let us know he was there. So when we look at that verse 3 again, shall wood be taken thereof to do any work? Or he say, will men take a pen of it to hang any vessel thereon? You know, we just looked at this a couple weeks ago. I think the Hebrew word is, let me pull it. I'm going to read the Hebrew word that's there, right? And I'm going to see who remember what we looked at when it come along to this. I got 8 minutes. So bear with me. I got 8 minutes. The Hebrew word that we're looking at is yathah. And that word is for a pin, a stake, a peg, or a nail. So when we turn around and we see this is basically telling us, yathah is telling us about a nail. Or will a man take a nail to hang a vessel thereon? Well, we know a Mashiach was that vessel. He was that vessel of salvation. They took that wood and that pin and hanged that vessel thereon. Why? Because he purged himself. Just like he read in John 15 about if a man bring forth fruit, he'll purge it and make more fruit. You know what's the only thing that's going to cause a purge? Get Matthew chapter 20 and about verse 20. See the only thing cause a purge. Then get 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and about verse 11. Matthew 20 and 20. Then came to him the mother of Zebedee's children with her sons, worshiping him and desiring a certain thing of him. And he said unto her, what wilt thou? She saith unto him, grant that these my 2 sons may sit, the one on the right hand, the other on the left, in thy kingdom. But Yahusha answered and said, ye know not what you ask. Are you able to drink of the cup that I shall drink of, and to be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? They say unto him, we are able. You know that Yehukanan or John said that a Mashiach would come but baptized with fire in the Ruach HaKodesh, right? When you purge something, you usually purge it with what? Fire. You know what I'm saying? Which goes back to what we just looked in John chapter 10 about, correct me with thy judgment and not in thy anger. You know what I'm saying? Because he say, we know that Yah is a righteous judge and he's a consuming fire. You know what I'm saying? He comes to consume us in the fire to make us pure. Look at this 1 Corinthians 3 and 10. 3 and 11 is good. Like I say, man, this is not no joke. This is not no exaggeration. For each and every young brother that we got, and now I'm gonna still say pale young, even though he about older than me. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna tell you how long you can go or nothing. You know what I'm saying? You just roll. You know what I'm saying? Unless we just trying to give time to let somebody else come in behind you. You know what I'm saying? But ain't no like, oh, you only got 20 minutes or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You do your thing. He say for other foundation can no man lay that is laid, which is Yahushua HaMashiach. Now if any man build upon this foundation gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble, every man's work will be made manifest, for the day shall declare it. The day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire. And the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. If a man's work abide, which he has built thereupon, he shall receive a reward. If any man's work shall be burnt, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire. See, that's the same thing when you say, correct me with that judgment. You understand what I'm telling you? Even when you turn around and you look at David, he was corrected with that fire. That work got tried. He took a loss, because guess what he lost? He lost his wives. The sword was in his house. He lost his sons. He lost all that. But in the end, his soul got saved because he corrected them with judgment and not with anger. You know what I'm saying? So we sit back and look at that. But that's only because he had a humble and contrite spirit. See, you know, the difference with that David was able to acknowledge his error and take responsibility for it. Same thing I had to do. You know what I'm saying? That's what's got to be done. Come on back over here to Ezekiel 15. That's what all of us got to look at, man. You did something, just go. If you're humble enough to cop to it, acknowledge that you did it, and ask the man to forgive you and correct it, he is just and meet to do it. You know what I'm talking about? That's why he said if you confess and forsake, you'll have mercy. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people won't confess and forsake, so they don't get no mercy. I got 4 minutes. I got 4 minutes. So when we look at verse 4, he say, behold, it is cast, Ezekiel 15, it is cast into the fire for fuel. For the fire devour both the ends of it, and the midst of it is burnt. Is it meat for any work? Now he's asking the question, is it good for any work if it get burned? Well, we know a Mashiach was put in the midst of it, burnt with fire, and it was good for a work because that work was the salvation of our souls. It's another thing that y'all will is coming to my mind that I want to look at, what you mentioned, but I'm going to keep it brief. You know how you read about that field of blood? Who know in the Torah where we can look at and see an example of a field of blood? I know it. Who know what we can look at to sit back and look at for a field of blood? We'll go into great detail one of these days if y'all allow me to do so.
When Moses slayed him.
You could have went there, but Cain and Abel, right? Wasn't he in the field and he slayed his brother's blood? And sit back and realize they want to take him and put him in the field of blood. At least with Judas, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It was a field purchased with blood money, right? You know what I'm saying? You sit back and look at it, same thing that Abel did. It happened to Abel, though. You know what I'm saying? This was a field of blood. We cast you into it. Now we got to turn around and look at it. Mashiach is the field, right? He said the field is the world, right? We know the rats is a Mashiach, right? When we sit back and look at it, we want to be in a field of blood too. That's his blood to be purged. Let me finish this last thing I'm looking at, though. Verse 5, though. He said, for behold, when it was whole, it was meat for no work. How much less shall it be meat yet for any work when the fire had devoured it and it burned? You know what I'm saying? For Mashiach was killed. You know, he was doing the work of fulfilling the book, but at that time he said, you know, my work is not finished. Ain't that what he told them? So right then it wasn't meat for no work. But when it was time for him to die, they were good for work. Because that work was the deliverance of our souls. Therefore, thus saith Yahuwah, as the vine tree among the trees of the forest, so as a Mashiach is amongst the people, which I have given to the fire for fuel, so will I give the inhabitants of Jerusalem. He gave the vine tree to the fire. That's what he's saying, right? He gave a Mashiach over to the baptism of fire or the furnace of affliction. So he said, them same people who afflicted him, I'm going to give you over to the fire because he coming back with fire and the sword. He said, I will set my face against them, and they shall go out from one fire, and another fire shall devour them, and ye shall know that I am Yahuwah when I set my face against them. Because every eye shall see him, even them that pierced him. But praise y'all for Yahushua HaMashiach. You cut the thing. You know what I'm saying? All right.